Have you rated and reviewed Marijuana Today daily on iTunes yet? It's the most powerful way to help our show grow that doesn't cost you a penny, just a minute or two of your time. Just open up iTunes, search for the term marijuana, and leave a rating and review. Do it today. Thanks to everyone who has done so already and to all of those who will do so in the future. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Thursday, May 25th, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 254 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day is not a good one, with Vermont Governor Phil Scott announcing yesterday his veto of Senate Bill 22, a proposed measure passed by both the state House and Senate that would legalize the cultivation, possession, use, and sharing of small amounts of adult use marijuana while setting up a commission to study the question of allowing for a commercial system to operate. Yesterday was the last day that Governor Scott had to take action on the measure before it would have become law without his signature. Tom Angel over Mass Roots has the best write-up around on the story and is reporting that the governor said that he was open to signing a revised bill if legislators took the time during this summer's special session to amend it in a number of places. In particular, the governor wants to see the bill revised to be more aggressive in terms of punishment towards people providing marijuana to young people and those driving under its influence, as well as broadening the scope, size, and timetable for the committee tasked with studying the wisdom of pursuing further progressive market reforms. In a letter accompanying his veto, the governor wrote, quote, "If the legislature agrees to make the changes I'm seeking, we can move this discussion forward in a way that the public health and safety of our communities and our children continues to come first." Unquote. Swing over to Tom's story on Mass Roots for all the details on this bummer of a story. Swinging out to California, we have the unfortunate news that San Diego County District Attorney Bonnie Dumanis has filed felony charges against cannabis entrepreneur James Sladek and a number of his associates involved in his legal marijuana business MedWest Distribution, which was raided by police last year and as a result had to close up operations. You might remember on a recent story I reported on involving Mr. Sladek winning a case against the DA's office involving more than $100,000 in money seized from his family's personal bank accounts after the police raid on MedWest. The criminal complaints filed yesterday target Mr. Sladek and 5 others who worked with him for a total of 12 charges, including conspiracy to commit a crime, money laundering, and manufacturing a controlled substance. If convicted on all counts, Sladek and his co-defendants could receive up to 15 years in prison. This is another good one to open up for the full read. Rounding out our top stories today is a mood brightener, with marijuana consultant Eric Hagen being acquitted on all charges yesterday during the trial that I've been reporting on up in South Dakota involving the Flandreau Santee Sioux tribe and their work to start a marijuana cultivation center on tribal lands. Mr. Hagen, founder and CEO of marijuana consultancy Monarch America, was charged with a number of criminal complaints by the Office of South Dakota District Attorney Marty Jackley, but yesterday was cleared of all wrongdoing by a jury of his peers who took just 2 hours to deliberate the case after closing remarks ended. Leafly's been doing a good job of covering this one and has a good comprehensive roundup that again is worthy of a click and read. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz it on headlines, let's quickly talk about the new editorial intern that we're hiring. I need help staying on top of our growing workflow here at MJ Today Media, and I'm hiring an editorial intern. Since we run a pretty lean ship here, this internship is not a highly paid position, but it's not one of those scummy unpaid internships that only rich kids and people who don't sleep can apply for. This job requires about 2 hours of work a day, 5 days a week, with a flexible window as to when the work needs to be done by. A successful candidate needs to be generally handy on a computer and be able to communicate things clearly using the written word. Rock solid dependability is a must, as is the general ability to just get things done. If you or someone you know would be a good fit, open up mjtodaydaily.com/jobs to learn more about applying. That's mjtodaydaily.com/jobs. All right, time for the blitz. Earlier this week, the Oregon State Legislature passed a bill onto Governor Kate Brown's office for consideration that would expand the powers of the Oregon Liquor Control Commission to regulate medical marijuana and to give medical marijuana cultivators the ability to sell their products to adult use dispensaries. Senate Bill 1057 was proposed as a reaction to the steep drop in the number of medical marijuana dispensaries statewide, which I reported on recently, and is pitched as a way to help medical cultivators survive in the face of the decline in available medical shelf space. Oregon's neighbor to the north, Washington State, just passed an omnibus marijuana bill that changes a number of things about that state's medical and adult use marijuana markets. In particular, SB 5131 makes it legal for adults of age to share marijuana freely, frees up patients to purchase clones and seeds directly from cultivators, limits advertising by industry businesses, and expands the number of shops retail licensees can have from 3 to 5. Those are just a few of the changes. For the full rundown, swing over to The Cannabist and read their story on the bill. Licensed Canadian medical marijuana company Aphria announced yesterday that it was taking over management of one of Florida's 7 licensed medical marijuana providers. The deal will be done with one of Aphria's wholly owned U.S. subsidiaries and will put them in charge of managing the entire operations of Florida-based Chestnut Hill Tree Farms. According to Aphria, this is the first time they are expanding their reach into the U.S. market. It likely won't be the last. The Alaska Journal of Commerce has a good story up about the debate over allowing for the public social use of marijuana in Alaska that will be retaken up by the state's Marijuana Control Board at their next meeting in July. Regular listeners should remember the debate that's been sparked up and tabled a number of times in Alaska over allowing businesses to open up spaces for their customers to consume cannabis. With the Trump administration falling apart more and more by the hour, it's possible that control board members will finally find some spine ahead of their next meeting in July and vote to allow for the big rule change. We'll certainly track this one as it develops. Popping up to Canada for a headline, we have licensed medical marijuana provider Marican Group breaking ground on a large expansion of their cultivation and processing facility in Langton, Ontario. The new expansion will grow their cultivation and processing space from a current size of around 44,000 square feet up to a healthy 217,000 square feet, which will include space for processing and distribution. When complete, their new cultivation space will churn out nearly 45,000 pounds of marijuana by the end of its first year in operation. A second phase of the expansion will tack on an additional 300,000 square feet of space to operations. A proposed bill was passed out of committee this week in the New York State Assembly that adds a number of conditions to that state's list of medical marijuana qualifying conditions, including PTSD and a painful cramping disorder associated with menstruation. Assembly Bill 582 now heads to the Assembly House floor for a vote. And finally for today, New Cannabis Ventures is reporting that the National Cannabis Industry Association just closed up elections for 11 of its 22 seats of their board of directors. In all, 33 candidates ran for the 11 open seats, with 3 newcomers to the board winning out alongside 8 incumbents. Swing over to New Cannabis Ventures to see the entire list of both candidates and winners. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at MJTodayDaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Before we wrap for the day, I just want to share a little bit of good news. Those of you who are subscribed to the Forefront Daily Headlines email probably already read this news, but I'm super happy to announce here that I will be taking over operations of that daily email newsletter starting next week. What's cool is I actually started the Forefront Daily Headlines email when I worked there a couple of years ago. After I read a couple days ago that the newsletter was being discontinued by Forefront, I got in touch with my friends over there who very kindly agreed to pass the reins on to me to keep it going. So on Monday, we'll be debuting the first edition of the newly rebranded MJ Today Daily Headlines email newsletter, which is going to look exactly like the newsletter Forefront is putting out now. All of the legal marijuana industry's 50 or 60 daily news stories organized by state. It beautifully complements the top 10 stories that I select every day here for this podcast, and I just couldn't be happier to have it home. I still have a lot of work to do over this week to complete the integration, but come Monday, we'll be fully in the swing of things. Thanks to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with Marijuana Today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.